getting ready to head to the polls again.
Tonight, the Prime Minister expected to call an election in a matter of days. Canadians bracing for an early battle at the ballot box. Good evening. Multiple sources have confirmed to CTV News Mark Carney will call a snap election this Sunday.
It's already shaping up to be a volatile campaign. The party leaders are preparing, but are voters ready? CTV's Rachel Aiello begins our coverage from Ottawa.
After months of anticipation and a historic shakeup in the highest office in the country, Canadians are about to have their say, as the Prime Minister is set to send voters to the polls on either April 28th or May 5th.
We're going to win. We're going to win, baby. All right.
Getting set to face off in a federal election, Mark Carney is sounding confident. But the players he's about to go up against won't go as easy on him as the Oilers did on the ice today. The coming election call, widely anticipated after Carney's landslide Liberal leadership win just days ago.
In this time of crisis is that the government needs a strong and clear mandate. We're offering a positive vision for the country.
Thank you very much, everyone.
The Conservatives are already well into campaign mode, making policy announcements and sharpening their message at events all week.
I want to bring it home, and that's why we need to put Canada first. It's time to bring home our jobs, energy, and economic sovereignty.
With polling showing a tightening race between the top two parties, the NDP will be starting this race in third place.
You want to choose Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre, who've already shown you they're in it for the billionaires, or do you want to choose New Democrats who are going to continue to fight for you and your family?
Calling an election this weekend means Carney will avoid having to recall Parliament, where he was certain to face a confidence vote within days. But going to the polls now means some of the rule changes the government was hoping to implement to make it easier to vote and harder to meddle won't be in place. With Canadians paying close attention to politics right now, pollsters are predicting a volatile campaign.
Right now, people are really plugged into what's going on because of tariffs and Trump and all of that. So I think there's a real potential that things could move a lot more wildly this campaign than they have the last couple of elections.
One big change that will be in effect for this election, a recent redistribution means there's more seats up for grabs, as there are now 343 federal ridings. Rachel Aiello, CTV News, Ottawa.
Fresh off a provincial election, the question now is, how do Ontario voters feel about heading to the polls again? CTV's John Musselman joins us live with that. Hey, John.
Hi, Michelle. There, of course, is that situation with voter fatigue. We did have a chance to speak to people here in North York, also to a political analyst as well about this election. People obviously concerned about tariffs and President Trump. Here's what they had to tell us.
It's definitely something that's a very confusing, scary time. It would be nice to hear, what are some of the proposed solutions from different leaders about it.
From what my limited knowledge in it and from what I've kind of gathered with people educating me on the topic, it does seem kind of like a scary thing that's going on and feels like it could probably influence a lot of things in Canada.
It actually worries me, the tariffs and what it entails for Canada. So I would be very cautiously reviewing their agenda and how they're responding to tariffs.
There's no debating it. The issue is which leader is best positioned to lead Canada through this trade war with Donald Trump, and they have to do a better job of maintaining that Pierre Poilievre is the right man for that moment. And so far, you can see them struggling to adjust to this new issue and new terrain and new political landscape. And I think probably there's no small amount of frustration on their part that they've seen a 26-point lead in the polls just vanish.
And there's no doubt that this tariff situation has really closed the gap for the Liberals to the Conservatives. Nanos research saying they're now virtually in a dead heat. Reporting live, I'm John Musselman. I'll send it back to you.
Thank you, John. And CTV News will have special coverage on Sunday, hosted by Chief Anchor and Senior Editor Omar Sachedina and CTV News Chief Political Correspondent Vashi Kapelos. You can also watch it on ctvnews.ca.
We turn to new insight into the moments before a plane crash landed at Canada's busiest airport last month.
The Transportation Safety Board has released its initial findings into how a Delta Airlines plane ended up flipped upside down on a Pearson runway with terrified passengers still on board. CTV Sean Leathon joins us live with details of the report that lays out what happened in those final minutes of the flight. Sean.
Well, Nathan and Michelle, the report focuses on those final minutes, particularly those final seconds, with a steep focus on the angle of the plane as it came into Pearson last month. The preliminary report issued by the Transportation Safety Board says that the Delta Endeavour CRJ 900 that crashed at Pearson Airport last month was descending far too quickly in the final few seconds.
Well, everything was normal right up until about the 150-foot mark.
According to the report, at 175 feet above ground, the plane was descending at a rate of 672 feet per minute. Just a few seconds later, at 50 feet above ground, that descent had increased to 1,114 feet per minute.
The landing gear itself is designed to absorb an impact of 720 feet per minute.
In a video released by the TSB today, the chain of events on impact are detailed.
The side stay attached to the aircraft's right main landing gear fractured, the landing gear retracted, and the wing root fractured between the landing gear and the fuselage.
Once the landing gear failed, the plane rolled onto its side.
The right wing detached from the fuselage, releasing a cloud of jet fuel, which caught fire while the aircraft began to slide along the runway.
Interviews with passengers on the day of the crash spoke to how the landing seemed normal until the last few seconds.
And when we hit, it was just a super hard, like I hit the ground.
Everything, drop it.
After passengers exited the plane, there was a second explosion. According to the TSB, the cause is unknown at this time. Of the 80 people on board the flight from Minneapolis to Toronto, 21 were sent to hospital, 2 suffering serious injuries, and no one was killed.
The question remains is why there was such a high rate of descent. Usually at about the 100 feet mark, we're starting to pull back, the 150 feet, they're pulling back on the power, also starting to level out the aircraft to reduce the descent rate, but that didn't happen. The descent rate actually increased, so it begs to wonder what was going on in the cockpit.
The TDSB is saying they ran multiple simulations to better understand the circumstances surrounding the crash, and their final report will be issued much later. And the Delta Endeavour releasing a statement today saying that they will continue to support the investigation, but out of respect for that investigation, they will refrain from commenting further. Reporting live, I'm Sean Leathong. Michelle, send it back to you.
Thank you, Sean. The homicide unit is investigating after a body was found at the University of Toronto's downtown campus. Toronto police say a man was found dead just before 8:30 this morning outside the Leslie Dan Faculty of Pharmacy building near Queen's Park Crescent and College Street. The circumstances surrounding the man's death are not known at this time. Police initially believed the death was not suspicious. It was no doubt an unsettling scene for students as they arrived for morning classes.
Stuff like this doesn't usually happen in universities. We just walk around and just trying to go to class. And we don't see stuff like this all the time at all.
I don't know much to think about it. You know, it's very, very sad to see. And they just said that there was an incident on campus. They didn't specify much, and they offered resources for students.
The U of T sent a notice to students stating there is no risk to the surrounding area, and classes proceeded today as planned. Investigators have not yet released the man's identity and are appealing for anyone with information to come forward.
Also tonight, shiny new Tesla scratched, tires popped, upwards of 80 rides damaged. Police investigating a vandalism spree at a Hamilton Tesla dealership.
But first, a live look outside this hour on the first day of spring. Yes, it has arrived, and the forecast has been on point. Showers, mild temps. The thing is, we aren't diving right into spring. There's going to be a pullback. To tell us all about it, Lindsay Morrison is here with a look at the current conditions. What are you seeing, Lindsay?
Well, Michelle, it wouldn't be spring in Canada if I wasn't talking at least about a little bit of snow, and we're seeing some right now on the satellite and radar imagery. London Airport reporting some light snow along with Owen Sound, some snow showers. We could even be getting some light snow around Alliston over toward Barrie and even as far south as Newmarket. Now, we're not expecting this to amount to anything, but it might be causing a bit of a scene outside your window if you're in any of these areas. We've had rain showers around the GTA, again, on and off. We've got some right now for the north end of the GTA, starting to dry out for the west end. It's windy out there. Those winds are now coming out of the northwest, so it feels cooler as a result. We're talking gusts up to 70 kilometers per hour in the Niagara region. The winds will change direction again into tomorrow, but right now we've got cooler air starting to filter in. It is 6 degrees here locally in Toronto, but it's 4 in Hamilton, and it's 0 in areas like Barrie and London. Here's your evening at a glance. We've got a chance of showers and, yeah, the possibility of a few flurries as well. We're going to take you through the weekend forecast where some measurable snow is going to be possible, at least at one point in time. All of those details are ahead. Nathan, over to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Investigators continue to try and determine the cause of an apartment fire that claimed the life of a woman in North York.
The blaze broke out yesterday afternoon, and today residents are sharing details of the scary moments as smoke filled floors of the high-rise building. CTV's Allison Hurst joins us live from Grenoble Drive with the latest. Allison.
We spoke with a neighbor on the 21st floor who says that he didn't know the man or the woman in that unit, but that he sometimes saw the man picking up food deliveries. He says most of the time, though, they kept to themselves. Investigators gear up before heading into the unit on the 21st floor, looking into the cause of a fire that killed the woman inside.
And I heard people shouting. I heard the shouts, so I immediately rushed and opened the door. And just when I saw over here, it was all covered in smoke. And I could see the supervisor of the building as well as the other staff banging the door. And they were trying to say, like, you know, open the door.
Meet Shaw heard the commotion outside his door while getting ready for work just before 3:30 yesterday on Grenoble, east of Don Mills Road.
It was hard to breathe, so it was going into my lungs as well, and that's why, like, you know, I got really afraid.
He took the stairs to get out quickly.
The place was all crowded with people all over, and the fire trucks and stuff, and a lot of people.
Black smoke was coming out of like the side of the building. I think it was behind. It was like on the 21st floor.
Aisha Bashar grabbed her 2 kids and rushed out of the building.
My elder one, he was too scared, and she was also. I was grabbing them. That's okay, don't worry. I was trying to console them.
A man in his 50s and a woman in her 30s were taken to hospital in life-threatening condition. The woman died, but the man remains critical.
That lady, maybe, who passed away, I'm not sure, but I feel so sad for her, and I hope everybody else is safe in the building.
Sans Gautam lives a few floors above the fire.
The smoke is coming out from the sink. A lot of smoke. You know, I was coughing when I was video calling my brother. Like, it was too much smoke.
The identity of the woman has not been released, and officials have not said what the relationship is between the man and woman. Officials say it's still early in the investigation and they have not deemed a cause as of yet. There have been 2 Ontario Fire Marshal investigators here on scene and Toronto Police all day as well. Reporting live, I'm Allison Hurst. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Allison. Police in the York region are searching for as many as 4 suspects in a dramatic and destructive home invasion in Richmond Hill. The incident was captured on security camera. Police say 3 masked suspects arrived at a house around 3 a.m. on Tuesday and forced their way in. They demanded car keys, which were handed over by someone inside the home. One of the suspects went to the garage, got in a vehicle, reversed it, and crashed through the closed door, and then exited through a gate at the end of the driveway. The vehicle was later found abandoned a short distance away. None of the 3 adults in the house were hurt during the home invasion. The suspects are believed to have arrived in a dark-colored SUV driven by a 4th person.
And take a look at this. Police are investigating after close to 80 Tesla vehicles were vandalized in Hamilton. This happened overnight on Tuesday at a dealership at Lime Ridge Mall on Upper Wentworth Street. The vehicles were parked outside. The damage includes scratches to fenders and hoods and punctured tires. The crime comes amid an emerging anti-Tesla sentiment spawned amid the trade war with the United States and Tesla CEO Elon Musk's role in President Trump's government overhaul.
I think everybody understands the climate in the world right now. There's nothing to suggest that this is motivated by that at this moment. It's under investigation.
Hamilton police are currently reviewing security camera footage to try and track down the person or people behind this. They're also asking anyone who may have information to come forward.
Now that Premier Doug Ford's new cabinet is set, the province's opposition parties are gearing up for the return of the legislature.
And with tariffs still on the table and no shortage of issues facing Ontario, plenty of post-election political posturing is expected. CTV's Queen's Park Bureau Chief Siobhan Morris has the details.
A warm welcome for Marit Stiles, arriving to lead her first in-person NDP caucus meeting since last month's election.
That was a lot of hugs.
New Democrats have again formed the official opposition at Queen's Park. Stiles' message to progressive conservatives on their 3rd mandate:
use it wisely, right? This isn't the time for political games. People are counting on all of us to step up in a big way.
Stiles does give Doug Ford kudos for meeting with American officials to talk tariffs. But she bristles at him, calling talk of annexing Canada a compliment.
We'll never be a 51st state. Canada's not for sale. But isn't it nice that someone thinks we have the greatest country in the world?
A compliment is when you say you like somebody's tie, right? It's not when a currently sitting U.S. president treats your country like his personal real estate listing.
Making a pitch to diversify trade and protect Ontario jobs, Marit Stiles invoked a famous quote from the late Prime Minister Pierre Trudeau, likening living next to the U.S. with sleeping with an elephant.
We can't get out of bed altogether, but we can build a wall around that elephant so we don't keep getting kicked in the head.
I'm Mike Schreiner. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner took his oath of office for the third time, disappointed not to elect a third Green NPP.
But we're excited to come back to Queen's Park, serve our constituents, and hold Doug Ford accountable.
Not just to deliver a response to tariffs, but address other challenges.
An affordability crisis, especially a housing crisis. Our healthcare and education systems are underfunded, and our environment's under attack.
The post-election period has been busy for the Liberals.
Staffing up, we've built a Liberal caucus bureau.
The Liberals returned to official party status, winning 14 seats, ready for more time to push back on the just-introduced cabinet.
Frankly, the players are the same old, the people who failed on their files previously.
Singling out the Minister of Health, someone Crombie says hasn't done enough to connect the 2.5 million Ontarians without a doctor to care. At Queen's Park, Siobhan Morris, CTV News.
In the Middle East, Gaza's health ministry says at least 91 Palestinians were killed in Israeli airstrikes today. Gazans are once again fleeing after Israel began a new air and ground campaign against Hamas. A day after sending tanks into central Gaza, the Israelis started ground operations in the north. There were no casualties when Hamas fired 3 rockets at Israel today. It was the group's first response since the Israelis suddenly resumed their attacks this week during a ceasefire. Both sides accuse each other of breaching the truce.
Just as we're dealing with those U.S. tariffs, a 100% Chinese duty on Canadian canola products is now in effect. It covers canola oil and canola meal. Now, this is in response to Ottawa's 100% tariff on Chinese electric vehicles. Beijing has also hit Canada with a 25% tax on seafood exports. It's the latest blow to an industry already facing a 25% tariff from the U.S.
Astronomers have made a surprising discovery in the most distant galaxy known. It's 13.4 billion light years away. The galaxy is unusually large and was initially detected in January of 2024 using the James Webb Space Telescope. When scientists followed up on Webb's initial observations, they were amazed to find oxygen and heavy metals. The presence of those elements suggests galaxies formed more quickly than expected in the early days of the universe. Coming up on CTV News, overworked and concerned about patient care. Nurses rally across the province, shining the spotlight on staffing levels. Their message for hospital CEOs still ahead.
And I'm Pat Foran. Coming up on Consumer Alert, an Ontario couple went to Cuba for some rest and relaxation. And without warning, the woman was punched in the face by another Canadian. No charges were laid, and the woman is shocked that nothing was done after such a violent assault. All of that story, that's just ahead.
Well, our temperature has been falling all day long, and it will continue to take a tumble through the night tonight. Eventually, we fall to a low of -4 degrees, wind chill -7. It is going to be a chilly start to the day tomorrow. I think the walk to school will be a little cooler than the walk home. We have a nice temperature rebound through tomorrow afternoon and lots of sunshine as well. Nice way to end the week, but there's some active weather moving in for the weekend. We'll talk all about it coming up. And stay with us. We've got another full night of great shows for you right here on CTV.
Another March break has come and gone, and the vast majority of people who traveled south had a good holiday and are back at work and school.
But vacations don't always go as planned. One woman says she's been left devastated after being assaulted while on holiday in Cuba. Pat Foran has the story on Consumer Alert. Pat.
Thanks, Nathan and Michelle. The woman and her husband went to Cuba for a vacation, and the second day she was there, she was punched in the face in an unprovoked attack. She is sharing her story because the man who hit her, who was also Canadian, faced no charges for the assault.
This was supposed to be just a nice time away.
Crystal Jardine of the Orangeville area is still recovering from a black eye she received while on vacation in Cuba. She and her husband went for 5 days to a Veradero resort. On the second day, they were at a beach bar when a stranger approached her.
He just asked me for a cigarette. I gave him a smoke.
Jardine says that's when a woman became angry and accused her of flirting with him.
Out of nowhere, this man came up, he punched me in the face. Then he took my husband down. He pushed him backwards and he got on top of him.
Jardine says the man who she described as huge was punching her husband. He was eventually restrained by security guards, but instead of detaining him, they told him to leave.
And I keep freaking at them. Call the cops. Like, what are you waiting for?
Jardine eventually contacted Cuban police and was told if she laid charges, she would have to remain in Cuba. She was given no information about the man who punched her, except that he was a Canadian citizen.
I don't even have the man's name. The resort won't give me the man's name. They wouldn't give me an official report of the assault. The only information that was provided to me is that he's Canadian.
The tour operator was Sunwing. A spokesperson told CTV News, "We sincerely regret to hear about the incident which occurred on hotel property. As this is an active investigation, we are unable to comment further at this time."
If a criminal action occurs in another country, it has to be handled in that country.
Criminal defense lawyer Joseph Newberger says while charges cannot be laid in Canada, Jardine may have options if she can locate the alleged assailant.
Once returning to Canada, her only remedy, if she knew of this individual's details, name, address, etc., she could commence a civil action for battery.
Jardine says she wants the man who violently punched her to face consequences for his actions.
It's just sickening that somebody can do this. I want this man to be held accountable for what he did to me.
And whenever you're traveling outside of Canada, you want to do your best to avoid any trouble. If you commit a crime, you're subject to the laws of that country, and being a foreigner and not knowing the laws is no excuse. On your side, I'm Pat Foran.
If you have a consumer story idea, email us at alert@ctv.ca.
Well, winter is over. It's the first day of spring. Everything is good. Everything should be sunny for a long time, but we know it's not quite over yet. Winter always seems to return in the spring.
We know this. It's okay. And if we get snow, that's okay. But can we just revel in this moment? Because it was a tough winter. Lots of snow. The banks were mammoth. And yeah, it feels good to get to spring.
We did it. We made it. We're here. It is spring as of 5 o'clock this morning. And we do have some spring temperatures in the forecast. It does, or it will, feel like March, seasonal at the very least over the next week here. But considering just how mild it's been the last couple of days, yeah, there is a little bit of a change on the way, especially for this weekend. Let's talk about this morning. We had some showers. We also had a sunrise, and the combination of the sun, the cloud, and those showers left us with this. A double rainbow over the city of Toronto. How cool is that? The view from our CTV News chopper. Nice to see the city skyline and the CN Tower in there as well. This rainbow looked just as great from the ground. Wow, what a start to the day today. And now we're finishing the day with showers in some areas. Also, some flurry activity in others. I mentioned some of the areas seeing snow. Want to include you now if you're joining us from Richmond Hill, the Stouffville area, Port Perry, starting to see a couple of snowflakes. We're going to widen things out a little bit here. The rain today has been quite heavy in the Kingston area, if that's where you're joining us from too. Now pushing into Ottawa. We are going to say goodbye to this area of low pressure, but we can't rule out the possibility of a few flurries even here in the GTA. Some of those flakes right now are awfully close to the north end of the Greater Toronto area. So that may happen this evening. Then we're going to clear out, especially through the overnight hours. But there is another disturbance waiting in the wings for this weekend. So we'll talk about that coming up. Let's show you on the forecast radar some of the timing of this. I would keep the window open until about 9 p.m. for us to possibly see a few flurries locally. Then conditions are going to clear, cloud cover as well. We're going to have beautiful sunshine for much of your Friday. Bit of an increase in cloud cover as we make our way into the evening. And then showers are going to return through the overnight hours. Might even get a little bit of mixing early Saturday morning as you're just waking up and kicking off your weekend. It's not going to last. This disturbance moves out as well. We should enjoy some sun in through Saturday afternoon. And then Sunday is sunny too, but it is going to be significantly colder. Let's talk about the winds. They're quite strong out there right now, and they're coming out of the northwest. All day long, we were dealing with a southwesterly wind, briefly changed to a west wind, and now some of that colder air is returning. Still going to be quite breezy. Winds easing somewhat as we move through the overnight. And then tomorrow, by about this time, we're going to be tapping into a southwest wind once again. So that contributes to our milder temperatures for tomorrow. It's not a bad looking day. Let's talk about it. Right now, though, it is -4 degrees in Timmins as well as Sudbury. Now -1 in the Wyerton area. So that colder air certainly sinking to the south. 0 this hour in Muskoka. Overnight tonight, we drop to a low near -4 degrees. That's close to normal, if anything, just slightly below. It's going to feel a little bit colder than that thanks to the winds I mentioned. But tomorrow, after a chilly start, our afternoon temperature is expected to be around 9 degrees. Seasonal average is 6. So yeah, this is not bad for the first full day of spring. But temperatures are trending cooler as we make our way into the weekend, and really for a good portion of next week, we are going to be at or below that seasonal threshold. I also want to talk about a little bit of active weather for Sunday. The daytime hours look good, lots of sunshine, but as mentioned, it's going to be cold. 1 degree for the high, that's it. And then overnight, we could pick up a couple of centimeters of snow. It will be wet snow, and by the time we reach Monday, hopefully warm enough that we change over to a few showers, looking a little cool through the middle of next week, too. That's your look at the weather. Nathan, back to you.
Thank you, Lindsay. Also tonight, a troop from PEI uncovers the secrets of American Pie. We check out the docu-concert that unravels the riddles and true meaning of the classic 70s song.
Nurses and healthcare professionals held demonstrations across the province today.
They're calling on hospital CEOs to improve staffing levels. One protest was held outside Mount Sinai Hospital. Nurses are demanding the Ford government negotiate registered nurse-to-patient ratios in a new collective agreement. According to the ONA, in 2024, emergency departments across Ontario closed for a combined total of nearly 15,000 hours, most of it caused by understaffing. High levels of nurse staffing are shown to improve retention and recruitment and decrease patient complication rates and deaths.
Being one of the largest provinces in Canada, it's easy to pull big numbers for budget out and say that there's being money spent in healthcare. But when you look at the amount spent per person in Ontario, that number falls far short of many other provinces, and it is not enough to keep healthcare public and safe for Ontarians.
Rallies were planned at 26 hospitals today. The ONA is gathering signatures for a petition that will be presented at Queen's Park later this year.
There has been another sharp increase in the number of measles cases in Ontario. 120 new cases have been confirmed over the past week. 34 of those people had to be hospitalized. Most of them are unvaccinated children. There have been 470 measles cases in the province since an outbreak began in October. The majority are in southwestern Ontario. Meanwhile, Simcoe County has recorded its first case of measles in more than a decade.
4 senators at York University and a member of its Academic Planning and Research Committee are asking for a judicial review of the decision to suspend admissions to several undergraduate programs. York previously said it was temporarily halting admission to 18-degree programs starting this fall, including Indigenous Studies, Gender and Women's Studies, and Environmental Biology. The group has filed an application to force the school to reverse the suspension, arguing York Senate has jurisdiction over academic matters and must approve such a move. A university spokesperson says enrollments at many of the suspended programs are low, but the university believes in their intellectual value and will support faculty members to revise and update them to attract more students. It's a signature song of the 70s.
And now there is an entire stage production dedicated to decoding it. CTV's Andrea Case has a look at Inside American Pie, now playing in Toronto.
We started singing, bye, bye, Mr. American Pie.
A 1971 8-minute-long pop song by Don McLean has been turned into an 80-minute docu-concert. Inside American Pie by PEI's Mike Ross and his partner Sarah Wilson dissects the song line by line with references to the Beatles, Bob Dylan, Charles Manson, and Janis Joplin.
Take another little piece of my heart now, baby.
I imagined that it would be an interesting thing to see somebody, tear apart the song and speculate and try to figure out what does it all mean. I was always fascinated with all the cryptic poetry in it. I could always sense that there was something here to unlock.
The couple opened Harmony House, a 170-seat theater on the island just as COVID was taking hold. Inside American Pie was its first hit and is now a staple of its annual lineup.
There's still little things that I'm uncovering. There's people that come up to me after the show and they say, hey, did you know this about this line? And if it's good enough, I'll go, I didn't know that. And I'll throw it into the show.
A member of the Mirvish team caught the show last year, and within days, a deal was struck to bring it to Toronto, along with the local cast.
Greg, who sits on the end, he's a Canada Post worker. Our drummer is a music educator, works in the high schools. And so everybody kind of has a job, and then this becomes sort of their side hustle, in a sense. It's become more than that now.
He calls them rare birds who can sing and play. As for the man himself, 79-year-old Don McLean is still alive, and as far as Ross knows, he hasn't seen or heard of the show.
I just don't know what he would think of it. It's highly interpretive. And like I say in the show, there's a good chance that he might go, what are you talking about?
If you do go, bring your vocal cords.
The end, when everybody gets to sing together, there's something really magical about communal singing that I think it's healing or something. And when everybody gets to that chorus and I say, and we were singing, and everybody sings bye bye, you just feel this joy in the room.
Inside American Pie is on stage at the CAA Theater until March 30th. Andrea Case, CTV News.
Hamilton's been chosen to host next year's Juno Awards. Organizers say the city's dynamic music scene and rich cultural heritage make it an ideal location. It will be the 7th time Hamilton has welcomed the award show. The last time was in 2015. Juno Week is scheduled for March 26th to the 29th, 2026. The main ceremony will take place inside Hamilton Arena.
Elton John will receive the 15th Glenn Gould Prize, presented to an artist whose work has enriched the human condition. The singer is being recognized for his musical success and the way he leverages his fame to advocate for the greater good. John says he's awestruck and honored, as he has long admired the virtuosity of the late Canadian pianist. John will receive the award at a gala in Toronto in the fall. He will also choose a protege to receive $25,000 from the Glenn Gould Foundation.
After the break, strong-arm tactics to become #1. A 14-year-old girl from Waterloo is Canada's best in arm wrestling. How she muscled her way to the top, coming up.
Now people are really plugged into what's going on because of tariffs and Trump and all of that. So I think there's a real potential that things could move a lot more wildly this campaign than they have the last couple of elections.
Updating our top stories, multiple sources tell CTV News Mark Carney will call a snap election this Sunday. Federal campaigns are required to run for at least 37 days, so Canadians could be going to the polls as early as April 28th or perhaps May 5th.
Well, everything was normal right up until about the 150-foot mark.
The Transportation Safety Board issued a preliminary report into last month's Delta Airlines crash at Pearson Airport. Among the findings, the plane was descending too quickly in the final few seconds, and the right landing gear failed upon landing. But the plane was flying within its allowable weight and balance limitations. 21 people were hurt.
This isn't the time for political games. People are counting on all of us to step up in a big way.
A message for the government from the NDP as all parties get ready for a new session of the legislature at Queen's Park. The New Democrats held their first caucus meeting today since the election, and Green Party leader Mike Schreiner took his oath of office for the third time. Meanwhile, the Liberals say they have built a caucus bureau after returning to official party status.
Remember to keep up to date day and night at ctvnewstoronto.ca and by downloading the CTV News app. And if you have a news tip, photos, or video of breaking news, let us know.
More now on new tariffs in effect today on some Canadian agricultural products not imposed by Washington, but by Beijing. BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez has tonight's business report.
The tariffs affect $3.7 billion worth of goods Canada sends to China, including canola oil and lobster. Canola is being marked up 100%, seafood and pork 25%. It's retaliation for Ottawa's levies on Chinese electric vehicles, aluminum and steel. Now, last year, Canada sent about $5 billion worth of canola products to China. Beijing targeted Canadian canola in 2019, but that was part of a diplomatic rift between the countries. The trade war has made Canadian business owners pretty glum. In fact, pessimism is at a 25-year high. The Canadian Federation of Independent Business says those who own small and medium-sized operations are worried about the future. Many say it's impossible to plan ahead given how quickly the tariff landscape changes. The Bank of Canada governor had something to say about the trade war today. Tiff Macklem says if it goes on, there could be severe damage to the Canadian economy. He also said the bank will not share a lot of forward-looking guidance given the never-ending twists and turns of the tariff dispute. A much steadier day on the North American markets. The Canadian dollar up just a touch to $69.86. West Texas Intermediate up more than $1, ending the day at $68.26. According to our latest fix on Western Canadian Select, it is up to $56.30, and the TSX did end the day down, but by only 9 points. Those are your business headlines. In the BNN Bloomberg newsroom, I'm Morella Fernandez.
The Business Report is brought to you by Canadian Western Bank, the bank built for business.
Finland has once again been ranked the happiest country in the world, while Canada continues to fall on the list. According to the World Happiness Report, Finns are the happiest people on Earth for the 8th year in a row. Experts credit Finland's strong welfare system for boosting its mood. Meanwhile, Canada ranks number 18, down from 15th happiest country last year and 13th in 2022. The United States fell to 24th place this year. Afghanistan is again ranked the unhappiest country in the world. A young woman from Waterloo is making a name for herself in the world of arm wrestling.
She only started competing about a year ago and is already ranked #1 in Canada for her age and weight class. CTV's Spencer Turcotte has the story.
Ready, go.
These arms are mid-battle, but when you zoom out, one of the competitors may come as a surprise.
Push hard.
At just 14 years old, Iti Manchanda is muscling her way to the top in the sport of arm wrestling. And she's doing it rather quickly, only getting into it about a year ago.
My most big competition was the Asian International. So I won first place there in my age and weight category. And then I also won the Canadian National Championship and the Ontario Provincials. So yeah, those are 3 of my biggest ones. And then there's also the Michigan State.
Earning her the title of top-ranked female arm wrestler for her age and weight class. Here's how she got there.
So this used to be our dining area. So we have converted the dining area now into a gym.
From eating food to eating up the competition, her dad has helped her rise.
Since she's born, she's strong. She's on the stronger side. Even back in India, I used to go to the gym and she used to come with me, and I think she was 4 years old. And she used to hold 5-pound dumbbells and she used to just copy what I'm doing.
And it's paid off. Wanting to test her strength, naturally, she began challenging him to arm wrestles.
And then my mom was like, okay, since you love arm wrestling so much, why don't we find you an actual club you can train at and compete?
So that's exactly what she did, joining Table Monkeys in Toronto, where she gets professional coaching.
A lot of people think arm wrestling is all just physical, but it's a lot about your mental game also.
Another aspect she's wrestling with, trying to get more girls involved in the sport.
Because they're not enough, definitely. Like I go to a tournament and I'm only with 2 other girls every single time.
To expand her range of competition, she'll be up against people much older than her.
I want to see if I could take down the Canadian 18-year-olds.
And of course, ET's ultimate goal is being crowned world champion, and she's well on her way. Spencer Turcotte, CTV News.
Waterloo.
Well, the Toronto Raptors are looking to rebound tonight after getting blown out earlier this week.
Here's Booker, the open three.
The Raptors were beat by 40 by Phoenix on Monday. Tonight, Toronto finishes its 4-game road trip, tipping off against the Golden State Warriors shortly after 10. The Raps are 8-25 away from Scotiabank Arena this season.
Make 2 good saves. Morris wins the draw. Matthews in front, scores on the tip.
The Maple Leafs are once again tied for first in the Atlantic Division after last night's 2-1 win against Colorado. It was the second straight victory for the Buds. They will go for 3 in a row tonight in New York against the Rangers.
Loses the puck. Now Darryl Watts keeps it herself. Watts shoots and scores!
Meanwhile, the Sceptres were back on the ice last night after a lengthy break. Toronto opened the scoring with a goal in the first period and went on to win the game against the New York Sirens. The third-place Sceptres play Montreal on Sunday.
History was made today at the International Olympic Committee on 2 fronts. For the first time, a woman and an African has been elected IOC president.
Dear friends and colleagues, the 144th IOC session has elected as the 10th president of the International Olympic Committee, Mrs. Kirsty Coventry.
The 41-year-old Zimbabwe sports minister needed only 1 round of voting to clinch a majority, and it was expected to be a much closer race. She beat 6 other candidates. The 2-time Olympic swimming gold medalist takes over perhaps the biggest job in global sports, leading the Olympic movement for the next 8 years.
This is an extraordinary moment. As a 9-year-old girl, I never thought that I would be standing up here one day, getting to give back to this incredible movement of ours. This is not just a huge honor, but it is a reminder of my commitment to every single one of you.
Kirsty Coventry will formally replace her mentor, Thomas Bach, on June 23rd. Bach has reached the maximum 12 years in office.
Just ahead, a frenzy over free cones, a milestone birthday made sweeter by charity. Why students were screaming for ice cream on the first day of spring.
Tonight, a sudden acceleration in the attacks on Tesla.
Damages include scratches to the fenders, the hoods, and punctured tires.
Why a fleet of cars in Ontario is just the latest target in a spike of global vandalism. That's later on CTV National News.
And a reminder, the CTV News at 6 podcast is available as a download every weeknight. And a special shout out to those of you listening to the newscast live on News Talk 1010. What better way to welcome the first day of spring than with some ice cream?
The sweet treat made even sweeter today because of a special birthday and connection to the Children's Miracle Network. CTV's Jessica Smith explains.
I scream. You scream.
Free ice cream!
We all scream for ice cream.
I actually donated $1.
Celebrating its 85th birthday, Dairy Queen is giving back for its big day, with proceeds from every dipped cone today going towards supporting the Children's Miracle Network.
There are 13 children's hospitals across our country, and as you say, we know that if it's not us, it's our friends or our neighbors or our family member who have been in those hospitals.
As a person who was in the hospital at some point, I really like the fact that we're helping the kids in need.
An initiative, according to the Children's Miracle Network, that wouldn't be possible without the community showing up to support those most in need.
It's a good combo. I think if you can help people, it's awesome.
Yeah, we get to help out people and get free ice cream.
We love seeing the energy. We love seeing the community come out.
Celebrating the first day of spring in style, with 100% of the proceeds going to local children's hospitals here in Ontario and right across the country. And after all the excitement is done today, you can still make a donation to support the Children's Miracle Network by visiting childrenshospitals.ca. Jessica Smith, CTV News, Toronto.
Finally tonight, an 81-year-old Toronto man thought he'd cashed in when his lotto ticket suggested he'd won 25 grand, but he was in for a jackpot-sized surprise when he double-checked the winning ticket.
I didn't have my glasses on. Then I went back to check on what I thought was $25,000 and saw with my glasses on, it was 25 million. Perhaps someone would suggest I should have taken my pulse to see if I was alive, given the amount of the wind.
Charles Coffey had indeed won the $25 million Lotto Max jackpot. Coffey says he bought the lucky ticket when he purchased a chocolate bar at a Toronto gas station.
But Coffey's story isn't finished there. He is the first jackpot winner in Ontario who also has the Order of Canada. He received the honor in 2003 for supporting women in business and fighting for Indigenous rights. He says he will invest the winnings and use any earnings to support important causes.
He just has it all, doesn't he?
Don't you just love him? Aren't you so
He's
happy
set.
for him?
And it all came from buying a chocolate bar. Treat yourself, everyone.
I know.
That's the lesson. Get a chocolate bar.
Yes, yes. And we're treating ourselves to some interesting weather right now. We've had some mild temperatures at times, but we're also watching for maybe a burst of flurries through this evening. Here's one more look at the satellite and radar imagery. If you see snowflakes outside your window this evening, it's not going to last all that long. In fact, conditions are starting to dry out in through the West End. Here's your weekend forecast. Showers possible early Saturday. Sunday is sunny until night and overnight into Monday, when we could get a couple of centimeters of snow. We'll keep an eye on that one. And then it's trending cool through much of next week. Michelle and Nathan.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's it for us, but be sure to join Todd Vanderhayden tonight at 11 for CTV National News, followed by Zoraida Allman with our next local newscast at 11:30.
In the meantime, our coverage continues anytime on CP24 and at ctvnewstoronto.ca.
For Lindsay Morrison and the whole team here at CTV News, thanks for watching and have a great night.